Greetings from STO Better Tactical. Today's Elite TFO is best served cold. Let's review the objectives.
The first objective of this TFO is to defeat a Klingon fleet. Once the fleet is destroyed, secure control stations Alpha, Beta, and Gamma by flying in close proximity to them and defeating House Mokai infiltrators that arrive periodically. Maintaining Allied presence near a control station will cause its defense satellites to flip to your side. Control stations left exposed to House Mokai ships for too long will turn their defense satellites on player ships. The stations must be defended for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Following this, prisoners will attempt to escape from the nearby prison world below. Stop escaping transports by damaging them to low health and then securing them through the standard interact, starting from at least 7 kilometers to initiate the capture of a disabled transport. There is no leash distance once a capture has begun. Accidentally killing disabled transports is extremely unlikely, and they regenerate 50% health upon being disabled. No transport may escape, or the TFO will fail. Once captured, transports will head into orbit and must be escorted to safety. Maintain control over the stations during this time to prevent defense satellites or House Mokai vessels from destroying the transports. This phase takes at least 6 minutes. Once all 20 transports are disabled, captured, and escorted safely to the warp-out point, the final stage of the operation will begin. 100 dilithium haulers will emerge and attempt to reach the control stations to destroy them by self-destructing. Your objective is to destroy the haulers while keeping the stations intact. Should a station be destroyed, the mission will fail. Once your team has destroyed 100 haulers with all control stations surviving, the mission completes.
Thank you. On to risks and rewards. This map needs substantial coordination to play on Elite, and the threat level is high due to warp core breaches from dilithium haulers and the threat from the Navarre warships. This map has a time floor of at least 8.5 minutes and will likely end up being closer to 15 minutes when the other parts of the TFO are considered. It is currently bugged and rewards a large amount of any choice of marks, as well as the potential for an isomagnetic plasma piece, so the rewards are definitely worth the time and effort needed to run it successfully. The enemies on this operation are House Mokai Klingon vessels. Most of their ships are relatively weak and don't inflict significant damage, so opposition is generally light. However, there are 2 threats to consider. First, the largest House Mokai vessels you will face are Navarre-class warships, which have an ability called isometric charge that can one-shot less survivable player ships depending on how it bounces. Second, dilithium haulers have a larger warp core breach radius, 3 kilometers compared to the standard 2 kilometers. This breach effect cannot be negated by typical nullifying effects like the dark matter quantum torpedo launcher or digitizer beams. Tactics. Most of the TFO should divide a team of up to 5 players across the 3 defense stations. The strength of each player should be considered, but assigning 1 player each to Alpha and Beta station and at least 2 to Gamma station is advisable if there are 2 players that can each solo a station. The last player can either roam or help cover Gamma. Having 2 players at Gamma will allow 2 players to engage the transports in the next stage. Those 2 players should focus on disabling first, then capturing the transports. Disabled transports will go nowhere and aren't a major threat, whereas a transport escaping will result in mission failure on Elite. That said, the mission will not advance until all captured transports evacuate, so care should be taken to prioritize securing transports. The final player can remain at Gamma to help keep it from reverting to House Mokai allegiance, or roam as needed. In the final stage, keeping players close to the stations is important, as losing a single starbase will cause the mission to fail on Elite. Players can roam as dilithium haulers are cleared out, but mind the blast radius and prioritize keeping control stations clear of haulers. Now, combat footage will be shown to illustrate the principles discussed previously. The goal of this section is not to illustrate perfect piloting, but provide an example of how to successfully complete the map with all objectives and without dying. Note that for brevity's sake, the footage is usually sped up relative to in-game speed. Scatter volley builds excel on this map, as House Mokai ships are fairly numerous and flimsy, making them great targets for AoE firing modes. Target a central ship in the initial encounter and your weapons will hit several others. Once the initial fleet is cleared, move to a station. I chose Gamma so that I could assist with the transports in the next stage. If you have an EPG player, placing them also at Gamma to provide a stronger gravity well to cluster the transports is helpful. This next stage consists of circling the station and attacking infiltrators to prevent them from seizing control of the control station. Sitting stationary might be more of an option on a fire at will build, but most ships turn too slowly while not moving and cannons have a narrow firing arc. Therefore I move back and forth and fly around the station rather than sitting in one spot. As you can see, with 2 players present at Gamma, the flimsy House Mokai infiltrators do not last long, and though they spawn frequently, Cannon Scatter Volley excels at cleaning them up. This map has 2 long briefings, and while the voiceover is enjoyable for immersion, we're going to skip them for the purposes of this tutorial. The briefings are between the initial capture stage and the transports, and then the transports and the haulers. Now we're moving into the transport section. After the briefing, fly down toward the planet to capture the transports. They will arrive in the following groups: 1, then another 1, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 8. Having 2 players disabling and capturing transports in the final stages when there are 5 or 8 transports will speed that part of the mission along appreciably and ensure that no transports escape. Remember to prioritize disabling transports over capturing them, though both objectives can generally be done at the same time. When attacking larger groups of transports, target the central one so that your scatter volley hits the adjacent transports as well. In this stage, as well as the next one, watch out for isometric charge from the Navarre warships. Recording this video took several takes due to being one-shot by Navarre warships from full health and mostly weakened shields. Once all the transports are secured, return to Gamma or roam as needed to maintain the control stations. The defense satellites are not much of a threat to players, but will do significant damage to slow-moving transports. If you find yourself at a different control station, like Alpha or Beta, you'll basically do the same thing as what you had done in the previous stage, which is fly near the station and defeat any House Mokai infiltrators that approach. Note here that, again, the disabled transports that had not been recaptured have the exclamation sign over them, while the recaptured transports will start moving and have the shield icon over them. The mission will not progress until all transports clear orbit, so once the transports are disabled, switch your attention to making sure that all of them have then been recaptured and are on their way. As this section completes, the next stage will involve destroying 100 dilithium haulers. The dilithium haulers go down quickly to CSV fire, but if you're flying a fragile ship, steer clear of the 3-kilometer blast radius. Groups of haulers periodically spawn from the nearby space platforms, so focus your attention there until the haulers are thinned out. Use your speed boost like evasive maneuvers to approach groups of transports, closing in on control stations. Losing a station is a painful way to fail the mission in the final stage. Once the haulers are mostly destroyed, move to the edges of the triangle formed by the control stations and finish off the last few. As a reminder, the dilithium haulers' blast radius cannot be mitigated by use of a torpedo like the dark matter quantum torpedo or digitizer beams. No matter how they're destroyed, they will breach.
Beta station has dilithium haulers within. Beta station has dilithium haulers within proximity. All ships, withdraw!
Captain, if this breakdown helped you in your quest to play STO better, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. The link to the specific build used for this tutorial is in the description. For more guides and builds, check us out at www.stobetter.com.